We're back with Harrowings podcast. I'm Hal Gill, your host, and I've got Jessica Alpha with me here. Harrowings, by the way, is all about how harrowing life can be, but also about, tilling the soil, agricultural harrowing, where you turn things up and scratch the surface. I'm deeply superficial, as Andy Warhol once observed, not of me, but of himself. And, it's an opportunity for us to get creative work done, to plant, get that soil prepared, and here we go. So Jessica Alpha is my guest today. Thank you very much, Jessica, for joining us from out in Illinois. And Jessica's got an interesting project that I think I'll let her introduce in detail. And then we'll have a conversation about that. Last about an hour, I hope.
Yeah, sure. So, I started Substack, which is the idea of like making a little bit of positivity any way I could. And I've always been a writer. So I do that for a living. I'm a marketing content writer. And then, about a year ago, I was laid off along with 10 other people. And it came out of the blue. It was in an email. It was not a great day. But one of my coworkers who had also been laid off messaged me and he said, "Hey, you remember that idea that you said about a year ago in the little chat we had?" I was like, "No, I don't remember what I had yesterday." And he said, "Yeah, you said that it would be neat if there was an app that could help people be better pet owners. They could learn how to take care of their new puppy. They could research if it was better to adopt or look for a breeder. They could get vet advice. They could get all kinds of things for their pets." And he was like, "You want me to build that for you?" And I was like, "Well, we got nothing else to do, so why not?" That was about a year ago. And now we are in testing, and we have a name too. It's called Petpedia. It's an AI app, and it's really neat because I'm hopeful that it can be useful for people. And a lot of the things on there are going to be free. So you go on there and you can ask our AI. His name is Paul, Pawl, of course. You can ask it any kind of questions you can think of, and it can help you. And don't want to get in trouble for this, but better than like ChatGPT or Google Gemini. Like we have been really working on this to hone in for pets specifically.
Ah, well, that's fantastic. Do you have a presence online yet?
So we've got it, we've got it planned, right? The AI guy, his name is Dwayne. He's amazing. He's one of the best coders in the Southwest United States, like not even state, but like United States. He built this pretty much on his own as far as the AI part. My husband helped with the layout and the building it in Flutter. And I was more kind of the team putting it together and keeping us on track and having the meetings and things. And then the other co-founder, his name is Nick, and he's super awesome too. He's kind of like our content guy. He's helping us with writing all the legal stuff and all of those types of things, the things that no one else wants to write, including me. So and we've got plans, the web pages that are going to go up once we're done with testing. Right now, because we're in testing, we're trying to keep it. I mean, I've been talking about it like on LinkedIn and Facebook and whatnot, but we're trying to keep it pretty low key until people can actually download the app, because how annoying is that? You see all these cool things like, "Look what we can do for you," but you can't do it yet. Sorry. So launch day is still a little bit a ways because we have to test in units, which this was explained to me, by the way, about a week ago. Like I didn't know how testing an app worked, but that's the kind of the fun things you learn as you go with this sort of thing. I'm not really an entrepreneur, but I am now. So is a side gig anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of the program manager for the whole thing, right? Is that
Yeah,
the way you
I mean,
style it?
that wasn't the plan, but that's kind of how it's been.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm kind of what motivates me is we want to make this, I okay, backstory. My mom's a veterinarian. I basically grew up in her, vet hospital, and I can't tell you how many times I'd seen where my mom couldn't save an animal, and one of her things was, "Man, if they'd only come to me sooner." Like, she would say that
Oh,
all the time, "If they'd only come to me sooner." And one of the things that this pet app will do is, the AI will actually detect based on the question and what you're saying. If it seems like you might need a vet, it will actually say, "I think you need a vet. Would you like me to find some vets in your area?" And it will actually be able to pull up the vets that are open, that provide the services that you need around you. So
fantastic.
yeah, I'm super excited about that because I think, a lot of people, they love their pets very much, but they don't always know, like, when is the time to see a vet? When is it not the time? And sometimes, like, especially cats can be really, like, quiet about it. They'll hide their pain or their discomfort, and you may not even know, oh, well, they use the bathroom more than usual, but that doesn't mean anything, right? Actually, they have a kidney stone and they need, like, medical attention yesterday, So it's one of those things where it can be, um,
Right.
really useful. I
Yeah,
hope.
I lost a
So I
cat to
hope.
kidney failure, years ago. It was the last vestige of my little family. My wife had left and with the healthy cat and left me with the dying one. Made
Oh,
more pathetic. But, poor Ivy got put down, right before I left, for Germany when I was transitioning. I'd put my wife through school, and the plan was I would go back, and she bailed right as I was about to go. But, yeah, pets are wonderful. I don't have any presently to tell you my side of it. My wife is allergic to all animals, and one of the signs of true love was I sent Cassandra, my cat, to live with its grandparents, and Cassandra lived to 19 years old, a little
wow.
over, before passing away September 23. I had a ticket that night for Patti Smith at the Anthem, and I went there. And, Patti had a cat named Cairo. Here, I'll show you Cairo. I have
Yes.
Patti Smith's Book of Days here, and Cairo is on the back cover. There's Cairo.
Oh,
Cairo died the
pretty
week
cool.
after at almost 22, I think. I will have to fact check myself on that, but Cairo was quite old and used to figure in Patti Smith's little live feeds that she would do from her, bedroom or whatever. She does those on Substack, which I really enjoy. Um, Getting back to Cassandra and telling a little bit Cassandra's story. She adopted me. I was living in a row house down at 37 16th Street Northeast in Washington, D.C., so a block over from East Capitol Street, not too far from RFK Stadium. And, I used to hear when I was sitting in my little study in the back of this second floor of this row house, this little sound that sounded like a cat. And I thought it was like, remember AOL used to have this instant messenger, AIM, it was
Yes.
called,
Oh, that's so
and you could attach a little sound bite to that, right? So when you logged in, it would make that sound bite. You could identify by ear who was logging in. I thought it was something like that. Somebody had a sound bite. Meow, meow. I was showing the place to a potential housemate, and she said, "I don't think that's a login. I think that's a cat." And so I pulled down the ladder from the sort of crawl space under the shed roof of this row house, and here comes this half-starved little calico cat, a tortoiseshell, female. And I bring it down. I'm kind to it, which impressed my potential roommate. Actually, we ended up dating a bit. She didn't end up wanting to room with me or share the house with me. You know. But one thing leads to another. And that's how my brain works, right? One thing leads to another. And that's where I leave. You know the Fix by any chance? You're Gen X, so maybe not. There's a song called One Thing Leads to
I'm a millennial, but good
Oh,
try.
millennial. Sorry. Didn't want to age you. My
My brother is Gen X, I think. Um, yeah,
well,
okay.
getting back to Cassandra's story, I put her out, but I also thought she probably needs a little food, and I had a can of tuna fish, so I put that on the back porch and let her, you know, test that. Well, that's probably a mistake because the cat was back the very next night. I put the cat out this time, though, with tuna fish. The cat was back that night. I bought cat litter and cat food. I considered
Of
myself
course.
adopted
Yeah.
by a cat. That cat was insisting that it was there. Probably saved my life because until
Oh,
Lily came along in my life, Cassandra and I were buddies. And yeah, I moved to a house down by Eastern Market. I was in the basement apartment there of this old house built in the 1870s, I think. The guy upstairs who owned it was a food economist and a playwright. He did a number of plays and had a little writing studio in the very back, which I guess was like a garage or a carriage house at one time. And yeah, it was just a wonderful place to live in DC and have a cat as my familiar, as it were.
I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely was like my cat, and I was her human. There was no doubt about it. I remember, in 1995, I had been in Pittsburgh, and I'd been kind of lonely, but recently divorced. I think we talked about that a little running into this, and we were encouraged to visit other teaching assistants, and I'd been to a
Mm.
party over on Walnut Street of the graduate students when first arriving there, and met one of the Italian TAs. So I observed her. And we ended up being close. And then we split up. She got married. And off I went on my ramble through life. And I was living in DC again and found out that she was getting divorced, got back in touch. And she came down to visit. And the first thing when walking in, Cassandra was on the back of the couch. And Daniela is very immediate. She's Sardinian. You know how the Mediterranean people are. Maybe. I'm probably globalizing. It's probably a terrible thing to do. But Danielle is very immediate. And she said, I feel her when the cat locked eyes on her.
That's great.
Cassandra didn't really broach rivals much for my affections.
Yeah,
She
cats
traveled
are
a
cats are
lot back and
interesting.
forth to Philadelphia, where Daniela was at Drexel teaching film and Italian and French and such. And that was a nice revisit. It didn't work, but I found out it wasn't me the first time. It was a combination, and not everybody's a good mix with each other. So cats, though, I mean, they do select who
Yes.
they like best. So what's your experience with cats and dogs and their personalities, maybe? I want to hear
So
more about Iggy, too.
okay, so I actually, I grew up in a vet office, like I mentioned. I was not actually allowed to have animals at home for a while. It was if I wanted a pet, it stayed at the vet. Is basically how it went. So I ended up having a little bit of a kind of like a little in my mom's x-ray room because there's like an outer room where you prep and then there was like the x-ray machine because this was like in the early mid 90s, so it was very old school where they had they had to develop their own x-rays and things. And so in that prep room I had any pet I wanted except for cats and dogs were not in there. They were in the kennels in the back. So I had mice. I had a bird at one point. I had a bearded dragon. I had a snake. I had, every pet you could imagine. And Pet PD, eventually, I would like it to be useful for anyone with exotic pets too, because I think that might even be more of a need because a lot of people, they want a new pet. But if it's an exotic, they have no idea what they're doing even more because many people have been cat owners and dog owners. And even if you're not a cat owner or dog owner, you probably know someone who is, so they can help you to an extent with that as well. But yeah, so my mom would have what were called donor dogs. And that sounds horrible, but it's not as what you think. They were blood donor dogs. So if a dog was coming in, maybe had been in like a car accident or was hit by a car and was needed a blood donation, my mom would be able to draw blood from the dog that she had there. And because it was her dog, she didn't have to get like permissions or do any of that thing or make sure that they didn't have any diseases or whatever. And so these dogs would save lives, but they were also my pets. And yeah, I remember one of the first ones was named Kate. And the first time I met Kate, she was a black lab. She looked like a full black lab. She was probably a mix, but I was in my mom's office, and I was sitting on the little couch there in her little work office in the back, and I was eating a breakfast sandwich. And this dog came in, just ran into the door and grabbed my sandwich and started eating it, like just stole it. And my mom came in. She's like, "Oh, I see you've met Kate. This is our blood center dog." And I absolutely loved her. And I would take her on walks, and I would make sure she was eating actual dog food and not my food. And I trained her a bit. And, it was one of those things where we bonded really quickly. And my mom also had blood donor cats too. And the cats were allowed to free roam around the clinic during the day. So they would just come over and sit with me, and do whatever I was doing. They would be there, just a presence. And that was really nice. One, his name was Elvis. He was a big fat, tabby striped gray and black cat. And he was very, very himself. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, he would just kind of walk away. Like, that's fine. Do your own thing. I'm not interested. But he and I got along pretty well too. And, when I grew up a little bit and went into college, it was when I was getting my master's degree in education. I was alone, and my
Mm,
mom was like, "You know what? I think she needs a pet." So she
right.
said, "Hey, we have this 3-week-old kitten that was found in an attic, and her name is Attica. Would you like her?" I was like, "Okay." So I had this little kitten. She's really tiny, just super tiny. I had her in my bathtub in my little 1-bedroom apartment. And I would, she had her little litter box in there, and I would have to give her a little bit of milk and wet food, and just whatever my mom said I did, because I'd never taken care of a kitten that young before. And then about 2 weeks later, my mom said, "Well, the clinic found another kitten. I think your kitten needs a friend." So I ended up
All right.
with 2 kittens. And yeah, Squiggles, the one that was originally named Attica, got renamed Squiggles because she was black and white, and that
Mhm.
was a 3-week-old one. And she passed away maybe 3 years ago from a brain tumor. But I had her the longest. And she was an interesting cat. She was a black and white. She's very pretty, but also very particular. Very, I will do things my way, and also I'm the boss. So
Okay.
when she was very much a cat. Yeah. She would boss the dogs around. I have this one picture, I have to find it, but where she is just laid across the entryway to the backyard, and the 2 dogs are on the outside wanting to come in, but they dare not to. And she's just laying there sunbathing, and they are just sitting outside. It's just like, what do we do? We can't go in, but we really want to go inside, but we will die if we go inside. Uh, yeah. Oh, yeah, she would absolutely, like, if she was just laying down and a dog walked by, she'd just swipe at him, like, just because, like, she could. It wasn't because she was afraid of them. It wasn't because she thought they were gonna step on her. It was just because she could. But it was interesting when we got our rabbit, his name is Cookie. um, they actually got along, and that was the strangest thing. But they sniffed each other. She kind of batted at him a little bit, and then Cookie kind of shook his head in like a playful way and like hopped around a little bit, and then they just kind of were chill. So I didn't ever have to worry about them fighting or anything. It was really my other dog, Faye, who passed away about a year and a half ago, who didn't necessarily get along with the rabbit, but she eventually figured it out. But yeah, it took a while. But yeah, Iggy, he's you know he's a different dog. He's definitely not anything like Kate, the dog that I had when I was a kid. Is also the blow dinner dog. Yeah, nothing like her. He's very sweet. He likes to sit on you. Like I have so many pictures of him just sitting, not like in my lap like a normal dog, but like literally like on my throat or on my shoulder. Like that is him. He wants to be on you and he wants to get the attention. But he's not the brightest. And I say that with the most love, okay? Like I love this dog, but I was a professional dog trainer for several years, and I can tell you, like, in the top 10 least intelligent dogs, he's in there. But we love him. And yeah, I'm writing that Substack story about him last week was really nice because it kind of reminded me, you know,
Yeah.
how much I really love this dog, and he is really a part of our family. Because when we lost Faye, like she was my what we call like a heart dog. That's like the dog that just you can't they're part of your family and they're irreplaceable. And it was hard because, I had this loss, but I still had Iggy to take care of. And of course my other pets too. But Iggy and Faye had been together for all of Iggy's life. So that was really hard on him too.
Yeah.
And um yeah, I think one of the reasons why I want this pet app so much is that there were so many times in my own life where I wish I'd known this or that, about my pets. And I think with dogs and cats, especially, like even though I was a daughter of a vet, even though I was a professional dog trainer, there would still be circumstances where I'd be like, no, wait a minute. I know that this is true, but here I am looking at it and it's not true. Like, what do I do?
Mhm.
Um, so that's something that I really hope that can help, for sure. But yeah, I have always been an animal and a pet lover, but, I think when I lost my job last year, just it was so random that
Right.
Dwayne messaged me and said, "Hey, you had this idea that I didn't even remember I had."
Right.
And here we are now, starting testing very soon. I think next week is when we actually will send out the link for the
Excellent.
testers. Yeah.
Hey, great. I think you're probably our viewers will like that. We'll also have this out on YouTube, so we can blast it and give you some publicity this way. It's drop in the bucket, but when it comes down to it, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? I had a
Yeah.
similar thing. Harrowings really spins out of the fact that I lost my gig. And by the way, what were you doing before that you lost that allowed this thing to happen for you, right?
So I was just a marketing writer, and before that, I
Mhm.
was a freelancer on Upwork, and I still have an Upwork account, and I still try to get jobs on Upwork, but Upwork has gotten a little bit, I don't want to say hostile towards people who have accounts there, and looking for jobs, but like it's very difficult on there now. But before they made all the changes, I was doing pretty well. I actually got a job on there where I wrote kids cartoons, and an episode is on Amazon Prime. So like, I got
Nice.
yeah, I got to do a lot of neat things. I wrote for a company. I wrote some educational scripts for teachers who are teaching math online, for I think it was kindergarten and first graders, and that was a pretty big company. And I got to write scripts there. And the CEO, wrote me a recommendation letter, which got me the job that I was laid off from later. But
Huh.
yeah, so I was doing that. Before that, that's when I was the professional dog trainer and dog trainer manager. And yeah, you train the pet parents more than you train the dogs. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but it is true. Like a lot of people, they'll get, especially families, they will get the dog because their kids want the dog, and they say the kids are going to take care of the dog, and that is their responsibility. And while that's not a bad thing, you're still the dog owner too, because you are the adult. So you've got to have that ability to know what will help you take better care of your pet and what won't. You've got
Mhm.
to know, what will help your kids take a good care of your pet and what won't. So I think that's something that I really want to stress is that getting a pet is not, like getting a stuffed animal. It's not like getting a toy.
Got
It's
stories there.
right. So do I, like
Yeah.
people just don't always understand the amount of work for one that it's going to be, even if you've been around, puppies and kittens and things.
Right.
If you've never had one before, I really want you to have the support that you need in order to make your life easier, but also make a good life for your new pet. And
Right.
even in situations like yours, where you say your wife is allergic to everything, there might be an option out there that you're not aware of, and yet neither is your wife. And there may be that might be something that my pet app can help you with.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
might be. I tell you what, I've got a couple of stories for you. There are a bunch of them really that are just cascading through my brain and I have to select from the menu inside here. Um, One is that, we got a situation when I first was getting together with my future ex-wife, hopefully my last ex-wife. Um, and she was not allergic to all animals, as far as I know. I didn't notice any pet ant problems we had, but we were looking to adopt a cat when we got our apartment together back in '89 before we got married. We went to the SPCA and
Mhm.
we looked to get a cat and we're going to adopt a kitten. And I thought that was a really great idea, rescue one of these beautiful little animals. So we picked out one. We got it to the point, and they asked our marital status. And when they found out we were not yet officially married, they said, "Sorry, we can't let you adopt." I said, "Well, what if it's her cat?" No, still, now that we know you're living in sin, you can't adopt this cat. They didn't say those words, but the input was
Right.
so we
That
got
was
in
the
the car.
implication.
We got in the car, drove down to Patrick Henry Mall, and went to Pet Go Round and got Alexander. And Alexander was our cat. Alexander was probably the baddest kitty in the world. I used to come home and find Heather in the bedroom crying, the cat locked in the bathroom, taking the bottom of the door, going, trying to break out because the cat had terrorized her. But,
You had a sweet little devil on your hands.
yeah,
Very
he was a
good.
calico too. He was a male calico, mostly white, with the kind of complexion they have. And I love that cat. And he did settle down after he was fixed and, decided to put on a little weight. And that was I think I was talking about earlier how she left with the healthy cat and left me with the dying one. We had actually rescued from the compost pit we had in the back. My mother-in-law was visiting and said, "Hey, you got to adopt that cat." And so we did. We brought it in, but it never thrived. And we went to have it fixed and found out it was not a young cat as we thought. It was small, female. But when they opened it up, they found no ovaries. That cat had been fixed already.
Oh, wow.
And it never really thrived after that. It lived under the bed primarily, terrorized by Alexander, who never really cottoned to it. Sometimes cats don't get along. My sister, on the
Right.
other hand, did have good success with cats. And your black and white cat that terrorized the dogs. My sister had one named Fletcher. Fletcher's thing, though, was Fletcher used to sit with his tongue stuck a little bit out of his mouth. So he looked
Let's
ridiculous. But he had this really intense stare, and he terrorized our Shetland sheepdog, Sedgwick, that belonged to my parents, and not let him pass. He said, "Shall not pass." And I think Fletcher was even declawed. It didn't matter. Sedgwick was terrified of this. And Sedgwick was a cat herder by nature, being a sheepdog.
Yeah.
He didn't have any sheep, so he herded the cats. What he did was he knew they couldn't scratch through his little flank, so he would push them with his rear flank into the corner and sit on the cat. That's he did it. And he would look so happy once he got the cat into the corner and was sitting on it. Anyway, we have a lot of little stories about those, right? Everybody has some, I think.
Yeah.
My father had them from his growing up, and I was telling one the other day when I was walking to Trader Joe's, filming the passing show. As I went, I started thinking about Bond for some reason. My father lived on his father was running a electrical supply store after the war in Orange, Virginia, as electrification was coming to rural Virginia. And There were a lot of farms in the neighborhood, though, and my uncle CC brought a German Shepherd by who had killed a sheep and was gonna be
Oh,
destroyed because once they get a taste for sheep's blood, they'll like it, and, they can't be trusted. So, you probably saw Babe, where the same situation happens with the pig in Babe.
yeah.
Anyway, instead, when CC brought the dog by on its way to be destroyed, of course, my father bonded with, Vaughn, and they became best friends, for the time that Vaughn was around. My father eventually went to college and Vaughn disappeared. He probably got hit by a car or something, and they never told him, but they just said he disappeared. So, sent to a farm, all those things that we say about, dogs to keep kids from knowing what happened to them.
Yeah.
But Vaughn had an interesting personality. He had a sense of humor, and my father would be out in the backyard, skimming the pool, waiting to go into Richmond with his mother, dressed up because she dressed up to go down to Richmond, fancy city. And Vaughn just sneaked up behind him and pushed him into the pool and ran around the pool barking, right? Another time he did something similar to my grandfather, was always a little nervous when putting the car into the garage, which was detached from the house. So he put his hands on the old man's shoulders in the pitch dark and nearly gave him a heart attack. Um, he liked to sneak up on people and surprise them, but he was terrorized by a mockingbird who learned to whistle just like people whistle. And the
Oh, wow.
mockingbird would fly into the front yard of this house, whistle for the dog. The dog come tearing around, and then the mockingbird fly over the house into the backyard, whistle again. And we just do that back and forth to confuse the heck out of the dog.
It's
At the
so
same
interesting
Yeah, at the
that
same time, they had a Chihuahua named General MacArthur.
that is the best Chihuahua name I have ever heard. That is the best.
General MacArthur wore a little harness and used to chase squirrels and got caught up with one. And they got tangled up in General MacArthur's harness, and the squirrel ran up the tree. And
Oh my goodness.
MacArthur attached, who got untangled somehow. The squirrel got loose, and General MacArthur fell out of the tree, promptly fainted. I had the wind knocked out of him, probably. They brought him around with smelling salts, and then he fainted again after staggering a few steps. Eventually, they say General MacArthur committed suicide. He
Oh,
put his head behind the wheel of my grandfather's car and was sleeping. They think he had distemper. There was a lot of distemper around then. I
yeah.
think there are shots for that now.
Yes. Please, you can get your puppies vaccinated.
There you go. That was my
Yeah.
segue. Over to you.
Okay, great. Yes, get your puppies vaccinated, but I feel like I'm in a commercial now. But it's so important to make sure that your pet can live a long and healthy life, and that comes with being a responsible pet owner. Um, they pets are there to give us love, but we should be there to give them health and love. Like there needs to be a fair exchange there. One thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about your German Shepherd was my dog Faye. She's the one who passed away about a year and a half ago. She was my demo dog when I was a dog trainer at PetSmart. That was where I learned from a PetSmart trainer who used to be uh, a canine officer and had a Shiba Inu who would find the cadavers in Lake Michigan. So really interesting
Oh,
lady. But for Faye, I got her when Faye was 8 weeks old. She was an Alaskan Klekai, which basically think of a husky, okay, but 10 pounds. Still thinks like a husky, loves to run. She was the smartest dog I've ever trained. Taught her over 45 commands, like just smart. She learned how to paint as well. She even has her own YouTube channel up still of her painting. She would grab the brush and would actually paint. She did that before that became a thing. Now you can see it everywhere. People are training their dogs to do it. She did this years and years ago. But Faye would, I could sit her in the middle of PetSmart, put her in a stay, and leave. and just walk away, and she would not move.
Uh-huh.
People would come up and pet her. Dogs would walk by, cats and carriers would walk by, and she would stay. Um, but
Amazing.
she was she loved to run away as a game. It was fun for her. So we were living in an apartment at this time. My now husband, but we were engaged then. He he accidentally left the front door open in our apartment. I don't know if he was checking the mail or whatever, but he left it open. She ran to the pool and then just ran in circles while he chased her because it was fun. She could have gone anywhere. She could have escaped. She could have done anything, but she just wanted to have a good time. And my husband actually came back to the apartment, and I don't know what I was doing at the time. I've been taking a nap or something. He's like, "Come get your dog." And what I did was I took my box of wheat thins out of the pantry and I walked outside and I shook it a couple times, and she came running back and came
Mhm.
right in. And the pool was a good several yards away. I couldn't see it from the door. It was a community pool, around the other side of the apartment complex. But yeah, she came running, and I got her back. When she had a when she was older, we had moved to good old Janesville, Wisconsin, the city of Parks, very beautiful little town, but nothing to do there, but very nice little town. She When she was about 11, um, she developed a degenerative bone disease where it was eating her joints from the inside, like her body was attacking itself. Yeah,
Oh, no
horrible
kidding.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, and she couldn't really walk very well. She couldn't. I had to carry her up and down the stairs and things. And I thought, let's let her. She always loved the outdoors, so I let her in our fenced-in backyard. I let her just kind of sunbathe in the mornings.
Yes.
And one day we had this wild gust of wind that blew open our gate, and she hobbled out and just started walking down the street. And I came out ready to take her inside, and I couldn't find her. And then I walked around the house and saw that the gate had blown open, and my
Mhm.
heart just stopped. It's like, I have no idea where she is, but I know she couldn't have gotten far. But what if she got hit by a car? What if anything? So I started walking, and I found her just around the bend. It wasn't even that far, maybe 3 houses down, and she was just sitting and waiting for me on the side of the road, just waiting for me to go pick her up, but she just wanted to just go out a little bit and have some fun, but she got tired, so she sat down. So I went and picked her up and brought her back in. But yeah, she was not in the middle of the road. She was not in somebody's house or anything. She was just on the side of the road, just waiting. And she was faced towards where I was walking from, which was our house. So she was faced towards there, and she was just her eyes were open, she was awake, and she was just watching, and she wagged her tail a little bit when she saw me, but she didn't get up. I had to go pick her up and take her back home. But, yeah, it's so interesting how animals can surprise us sometimes, even when we think we know them. They still go above and beyond and will have these moments. Like, I keep saying how unintelligent my other dog, Iggy, is, but he survived 2 weeks in the woods. Like, I have to give him credit for that. That's
Yeah.
a miracle, like he doesn't like the cold or the rain, and it snowed and rained while he was out there. He has no hair. I mean, his hair is so tiny and thin. That's an Italian Greyhound for you. They hate even sitting on tile because it's too cold. Um, but he survived for 2 weeks in the woods, and there was a coyote that lived near that area that he was in because we saw it when we were looking for him. But yeah, he survived. He knew to go to different houses that left food out and eat it, but he also, was so scared witless that anytime he saw me or anyone else, he would run. But he lived, and we were able to get him back, and I'm so thankful for that. But it's also, so surprising. It's like, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how you knew what to do and how to not get hit by a car or, get attacked by a coyote. So it's
That is
so
a tragic
interesting.
thing, right, when they get hit by cars.
That's so
Uh,
sad.
for a good friend of mine lost a German Shepherd at, like, I think Burrow was maybe 2 or 3, and, she found him before he died, and they got him to a vet, but he passed before the vet could get there, the emergency vet, and that just tore us up. Anyway, um, that just reminds me of Spot. My father's first dog when he was a child was a fox terrier, thin-haired
Mm.
thing. Yeah, fox terriers. And he was very smart. He used to go shopping
Yes.
in Orange, Virginia. He was well known for this. The people would leave the grocery door open, and he would go in, pick up something, and take it home, you know,
Yeah.
and, eat it. Whatever it was, my father looked out the back, saw Spot bearing a package of hot dogs one time. And they kept a bill actually at the grocer's. This is a small town, like Norman Rockwell kind of town. Um, and there was an account of what the Gill family owed, and there was a little column for Spot, the thing Spot had pilfered from the store that they were charged for as well.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
when they were living in town, Spot was getting into so much trouble around town that my grandfather tried to give him away, took him away, but there was a protest by the neighborhood kids to free
Really?
Spot, return him to, and so my grandfather had to get Spot back again. My father wrote a little story about that, that I managed to find when he passed away and, share with my Aunt Wilma, because what happened was Aunt Wilma went for a walk up on Monroeville Road in Orange, Virginia with Spot, and, Spot got hit by a car, and, Aunt Wilma came home crying, and, Spot had passed away, right there, apparently killed instantly. But he was, so smart that apparently he used to, stay with my father until my father fell asleep and then tiptoe down the stairs of the house so as not to wake him up. And he had all these, fabulous stories about things the Spot used to do. He one time followed my uncle Will, he followed my grandfather. My grandfather would drive into Gordonsville where they had a branch of the hardware store. There was the one on Main Street in Orange and the one in Gordonsville. And my grandfather didn't take him, and Spot wanted to go in the truck, and so he just followed the truck all the way to Gordonsville, which is like a number of miles. And, my father's Uncle Willie gave Spot a bath when he got there. So Spot never did that again. He didn't like getting baths. It was pretty dusty and dirty from going, I think I don't know how far it is. I think it's almost 20 miles from
Oh,
Orange to the hardware store. But, yeah. There's some really intelligent animals. My father also had a fox, speaking of, exotic pests. At the same
that's
time,
beyond exotic.
my Aunt Wilma was dating a boy named Jimmy Fox. That was also the name of the fox, was Jimmy. So,
Love it.
my father used to torture his older sister. She still survives at 95 in
Oh,
Charlottesville, which is pretty impressive. I just had a little communication with her around her birthday, which was July 15th, I believe. Yeah, still sharp too. Unfortunately, I can't see or hear very well, but things go after a time. And it happens with dogs too. They get to that point. You were talking about the degenerative joint disease. I've got a neighbor here, Gracie and Jeff. They're the humans, and they have Esteban, which of course translates as Steve. So my wife and I just call the dog Steve. It's a miniature Australian sheepdog. But I'm pretty sure Esteban is pretty close to blind. You see that fogginess on the eyes lens, and he just lays down exactly like you were describing. He just lays down in the sun and takes it in. And yeah, they've had a number of dogs over the time, but Esteban's the last one now, and quite the neighborhood fixture. You can always see Jeff or Gracie out with them. They have a stroller for him too, so you can get air. Over to you.
That's that is a good pet owner right there. When you've
Yep.
got a way to keep your pet happy even when they can't, do certain things anymore. That's a good sign. Iggy is 10 now, and he's got a cataract in his right eye. It's pretty big. It does impact his sight a little bit, but I think he's still got a sense of smell and his hearing pretty good. So he's able to, you know, navigate pretty good. Occasionally he trips going up the stairs, which I do carry him quite often, but he's still pretty quick because he's an Italian greyhound. So sometimes he's like, "Yeah, let's just go," and I'm like, "Wait, you might hurt yourself," But I really I really admire the way that animals age as far as how graceful it is.
Right.
They still have this will to be, I want to be with you. I want to live. I want to enjoy life. I want to sit in that sun and soak. I want to just be around my family. And I think that's really just inspiring as far as like how I want to age. I don't want to get bitter or angry or, frustrated that I can't do things anymore as well as I used to. I want to enjoy what I still have and just kind of just still live, even if I can't do some of those same things. Like you said, hearing, sight. Yeah, all of that happens when we get older. We just start losing some of those things. But that doesn't mean that we can't still have a full life, and we should still try to have that. So that's just something that, you said you've got all these things in your mind whenever I talk. Well, that's what came to mind when you started talking about that for me was, yeah, that's the kind of life I want to live when I'm older, is just sitting in that sunlight and just living still.
Yes, being, I think, is so important. And a lot of us are human doings, right? We're always running around trying to do the next thing. And the
Yeah.
frenetic nature of it. I was talking to Jay Venera yesterday, Julia, and we were talking about that same thing about the pace of life in Europe versus the pace of life in America. And she's from Rome and spent some time in Berlin. So we were talking about that as well. I see Iggy's story here. He played with rocks.
Yes.
Tell me about the play with rocks.
I mean, it's literally what it was. He would go outside, be surrounded by toys because Faye loved dog toys. Like that was her thing. She would,
Uh,
in fact, a lot of times when I was training Faye, I would use a toy as a reward because I didn't want to, make her diet predominantly treats or anything. So I would reward her with toys. But anytime I tried to play with Icky, he would just kind of wag his tail and smile at me and not do anything. I've even got a video somewhere of where I'm throwing a ball with one of those little sticks, those little things that like grab the ball. I forgot what it's called, but you throw them and it throws the ball even further. And Faye will
right.
run and fetch it every time. And you just see Iggy just running around in a circle, like just being a happy boy, but not once did he go after the ball. And uh, but when we lived in Carrollton, Texas, which is near Dallas area, we had a nice fenced-in backyard, and we had it was mostly grassy, but I built with my husband John. We built this little kind of like an oasis almost in our backyard. We had like a little swinging bench. We had a little rock pathway. We had a little waterfall fixture. We had a bunch of different plants, rosemary and sage primarily, and then whatever else grew. But uh, Iggy would go in this backyard. This is when we got him.
Mhm.
It took about 6 months. When he was about 6 months old, he started just going in the backyard and just sniffing around and finding a rock, and he would grab it and he would just throw it up in the air. Sometimes it would hit him, like he just enjoyed it. And he would grab a rock sometimes when it was time to come inside. I would be like, "Come on, guys." And we had a little dog door. He would take a rock in with him, in through the dog door, and he'd put it on his dog bed. And I don't know why he did that. He just did. And, I like to think that I know a lot about dogs, but that is something where I have no idea what was going on there. Um, he liked to play with rocks because that's what he did. Other dogs played with toys, other dogs play with other dogs, which he did like playing with other dogs too. But, I wrote in that latest Substack story, and this is a really fond memory of when Faye would have a toy and she'd try to get him to play with her. She would run up with the toy and, do that little play bow with her butt in the air and her little tail wagging. And she'd hold the toy right in front of his face and then she'd run off with it. And Iggy would chase her and you'd think that, yeah, they're going to start playing tug of war or something. But then he was faster than her because he's an Italian greyhound, those super
Sure.
long legs. He would run up next to her and keep pace with her and just be happy. He wouldn't try
Yeah.
to take the toy. He wouldn't do anything. He would
Just
just be
run.
running with her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cute. Be careful with rocks, though, folks. This reminded me of a story of Heller, who was the German Shepherd that was my great grandfather's. He ran the hardware store in Orange, and the family had this property on Monroeville Road that my grandfather also lived on a slice of it. And Heller, I don't know which one of his sons it was, but somebody threw a rock like a ball and broke off the canine teeth for poor Heller. It's very painful.
Oh,
Some people mean, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but then they thought knew that what they were going to do. But poor Heller. But Heller lived a long, healthy life there in Orange, Virginia. I understand it. I have a picture of my father, who must have been under 2 years old at the time, standing next to Heller with his two sisters somewhere. I have to put that up and write an article about it or something, a cautionary tale. Do not throw rocks for your dog. If the dog wants to pick up a rock, fine. In fact, I remember rolling a rock off of a mountain. My parents had this place up in Amherst County, which is one of the ancestral homelands. My Revolutionary War ancestor moved up there. And the 18th century, after fighting in the Battle of Yorktown, where we won our independence. So I'm kind of full circle. I haven't been born in Williamsburg. We were talking a little bit about fife and drum background earlier, but my parents had, and you could play fife up in this mountain house where they had up on the western slope of Tobacco Row Mountain. It's windy up there, going up to the mountain. On Grants Hollow Road, we just take the dogs for walking. And the story goes that Ben became our dog after the sheriff next door, who lived there full time, sent him to the SPCA because he was digging up his plants. And poor Ben was on death row. My father had driven me back up to Dulles Airport so I could fly back to Copenhagen, Denmark, where I was working at the time for a small web software company doing development on some web content management system. And he took Cooper, his black dog, with him, and Ben and Cooper were like best friends. He got up there, no Ben. So he looked and looked into the SPCA, and sure enough, Ben was there on death row. He's going to be put down in a couple of days. So I went back to call mom, checked it out if it was all right, and went back, and Cooper sitting up on the back of the chair, the black dog, who's the best friend of this golden retriever, just as happy as he could be. And they got Ben, broke him out of jail, took him off of death row, and for a year or so they were together. And I, like I said, rolled this rock about yay big off the mountain because it's kind of fun to just watch them bounce off the trees on these really steep slopes. Ben, being a retriever, of course, went and retrieved it. I have that rock here somewhere as a monument to Ben and his stick-to-itiveness. I did not throw it for him to catch, though, of course, but it was a big old piece of quartzite, that you find up in the mountains. And I don't know, that dog was one single-minded. He had an interesting intelligence, too. You know how the banks can be washed out and little things burrow in there? Probably chipmunks or whatever. I don't know if chipmunks burrow or not. I don't know what burrows, but well, Cooper loved to get moles in particular. He would just be able to sense where a mole was underground, dig it up, and then fling it in the road. Just a molar, as it were. This time they were after something in the bank, and Cooper was digging after it. Ben realized they ran into the roots of a bush that was growing in that ground right above the slope. Ben realized that he went up and grabbed the bush and tried to start uproot it. He
Wow.
so engineering intelligence there. He could see that the roots they were running into connected to that bush. He's going to pull it out. Now they were intrepid. I've got a good picture of them walking in the mountains. Cooper, I don't know what it was, but there were a number of times dogs died around there, and I knew there was a guy up there who didn't appreciate the dogs running loose,
Mm.
and I think he may have poisoned Cooper, because Cooper's kidneys failed, and that was a slow, sad exit for a very intelligent dog. He had been adopted from a little black dog. I don't know how to describe him exactly what breed he might have been, but he was adopted from South Carolina when Sedgwick had passed away. Sedgwick got some sort of cancer. These terrible tumors that would form on him that would break out and bleed. And eventually they put him down because it was just too much suffering. But had a number of surgeries to remove them, and they just come back. Um, But when they got Cooper, it was down in South Carolina, and so he's named after the Cooper River that runs near Charleston. My sister was down there, and my parents went and visited, and they went to the SPCA, got Cooper, and it was probably the best dog my father ever had. When he passed away, Ben went on, though, because Ben got an extra 7 years. He was about 7 years old when my father got him out of death row, and then he got another 7, died at the age of 14, about a day after his 14th birthday. Kind of sad, too, is his hindquarters went. He couldn't walk anymore. And my father took him over to the vets and gave him a soft exit. I think that was really an important service to provide to his animals. He got another golden retriever after that, and then went to try to get another dog. This is probably, let's see if I'm doing my math. He was 81. And we went to one place and they refused. They picked out one they liked, and then they refused to let him adopt it because of my father's age. He went on
Oh,
to live for another 10 years, my father did, so but and it might have helped keep him alive because, I mentioned Cassandra, who went to live with my parents, died in 2023 on September 16th. I remember that because of the Patti Smith concert we were mentioning earlier, and then Cairo, her cat, died the next week at close to 22. Um, but I think when Cassandra passed, my father didn't last him anymore. I think the animals really keep us alive and have a
yeah.
lot to do with our own health. And maybe
Mhm.
that's a good segue for our wrap up. We've got about 3 minutes, it looks like, till
Yes.
and if you wanna go long, I can, but I don't want
Uh,
I wanna respect your
we'll
time.
see. Maybe not, but maybe. That when I was listening to you, I love how you tell a story. By the way, this is great.
Bounce, bounce.
Yeah, that's how people think. We get inspired by memories, and then we get more memories pop up, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But what I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of training is really easier than you might think. For example, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I have to give up my dog because it's doing XYZ." Like you said, digging up the plants, right? Or for some people, it's barking at the front door. Other people, it's uh, chewing up the couch or whatever. Like there's especially dogs, but cats too. This cat destroyed whatever. I have to get rid of it, or it's attacking the dog or whatever. Um, One thing is true, especially with dogs. With cats, I mean, it's also true, but they are cats, okay? If there's a cat trainer on that's got advice, I'm all ears. But for dogs especially, the key to training is this: they are more likely to repeat a behavior if they're rewarded for it. They are less likely to repeat the behavior if they are not rewarded for it. And this is where it gets really interesting because people will, maybe spank their dog or yell at their dog or whatever whenever it barks and someone's at the door, right? But if that door still opens, the dog still got rewarded. So it is going to bark again. It might make sure you're not around to make sure it doesn't get in trouble for it, but it will still bark again if that door opens. Because that is their reward. That's what they want. They want to see what's on the other side of the door. So they're going to bark. Um, and that's something that I think Petpedia can help with. It is very good at offering the training advice. I've tested it quite a bit, and I've said things like, "How do I teach my lab to sit?" And it will literally go in and give me every step, what to do, how to do it. And being a dog trainer, I was actually pretty impressed with the steps. I was like, "Yeah, this is pretty close to what I would have done." As a professional dog trainer, what I did do. So I think that's something that can really help if you have a pet that maybe has some issues that you're not quite sure how to handle. Maybe you can't or don't want to seek a trainer, or maybe you've had a bad experience with a dog trainer before. I mean, not all trainers are created equal. Okay, I'm not saying I was the best, but I certainly knew of some trainers that did some things. I'm just like, I can't condone that, But with the pet app, you can see what will work, and then you can try it without even having to leave your room or your home. So I'm excited about that as far as being able to make training more accessible for people, because a lot of people don't know, how do I get my animal to stop doing this? And because of that thing, they think the only option is to find a new home for it. And it might be not the case. There might be a solution that's right there. So that's, again, I want to make it easier for them to take good care of their pets, but also I want to make it to where they can stay with their pets and their pets can stay with them for as long as possible. So that's
Yes.
the, yeah, that's the whole reason behind it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're at 11:01. I wanted to say too, I don't know if you're a follower of Mutt's, the cartoon, by Patrick McDowell by any chance,
No,
but it's a
but now
book
I
he
need to
has.
be if you are.
Well, there's a book he's got called Guardians of Being, and, I think that our pets are really guardians of our being. We're guardians of their being. And I'm really excited to see what Petpedia does and get it launched. If you'd like to come back on the show and we do some more of these, that'd be wonderful. If not, that's fine too. But I do think that it's a really evocative kind of thing that a lot of people can relate to, because I mean, we do love our pets as much as our families. They are part of our families. I'll tell you about my mother's side of the family next time if we get a chance to do this, or maybe I'll just start talking about it when we get off here, because I do sometimes do that. I also write a good bit, and so does Jessica. So look at the story about Iggy Plays with Rocks, please, if you're listening. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It was great. And we should do this again, Hal. I think it was phenomenal. I loved it. This was a good chat.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The Art and Science of Conversation is one of my articles out there. Wrote it a long time ago for Lisa Joy Glassman, who was my physical trainer, because not only it is really the person who needs the training more so than the animal, right? All right, I'll wrap it up here. Thanks again, Jessica. It's a delight.
Okay, bye.
Bye.